Jessica Doble, a PhD candidate in English at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, uses social media to reach communities. Jessica's research examines online communities, fandom, and popular culture media. In our chat, we talk about the politics around True Blood and the bold type. Jessica talks about why she likes Instagram. It doesn't feel like posting into the void. And we chat about Tumblr, Twitter, and her favorite folklore hashtags. Jessica is my friend in real life. I'm excited to share her with you today because she's doing cool in-the-moment research. We talk about an episode that hasn't premiered yet. And she uses social media in a variety of ways. Having a curated feed and favorite hashtags to find community is an important part of enjoying your social media life. Jessica knows that. Then, hear about how Jessica is managing social media for an academic journal. It's all in this episode of The Social Academic. Hello, Jessica. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So today we're here for The Social Academic, and we're talking with Jessica Doble, a folklore PhD student at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. So, Jessica, tell me a little bit about you.
Okay, so I'm a PhD candidate, as you said, and so I'm getting a degree in English with a concentration in folklore, and my background is in both of those subjects. So my master's is in folklore, and then got my bachelor's in English, and so I'm definitely straddling those lines when I'm pursuing this PhD.
That's wonderful. What is your current work in? You said that your concentration was folklore. What are you working on? What's your project?
Yeah, so I'm working on my dissertation right now, and it focuses on popular culture media, and it's fan fiction that's created by people who self-identify as fans. And so fans, they create art and post it to the internet on different spaces like Tumblr and like fan fiction publishing platforms. And so that's how we get this kind of like communal reception, which folklore is very interested in, like community and the way in which communities are created, and particularly like online communities, since people are not geographically together. And so that's definitely where my focus is on this like art creation, as well as the way in which like communities are centered around the reception of media, like specifically like television series.
That's very interesting. Which television series are you focusing on right now?
So right now I'm writing a chapter on the bold type and True Blood, which are very different television shows.
They are very different. So what's the connecting link that you're writing about?
I'm talking about the way in which the fandom aligns itself politically with, or kind of not with, the way that the show is trying to demonstrate its own political alignment. So, for example, like Bold Type is all about like trying to create this like feminist space, and they're focusing on like queer identity and a lot of these issues that are concerning women in like the current moment.
Got it.
The fandom often thinks that, the show isn't going far enough. So they want, better queer representation. They want more feminism. And so that alignment is like in line with what the bold type is trying to do. The fans just want more.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And did you see the similar things for True Blood?
True Blood, I would say that I think the fandom is more conservative, actually. So the fan fiction that I have seen on fanfiction.net specifically is more focused on, kind of coming back to white characters, even if it's like a queer relationship, fans are mostly shipping white characters. And so in a show that says that it's like post-racial, like how is the fandom actually engaging with that idea? And I think they're turning that idea more conservatively than more progressive.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
That's actually really interesting because they're from kind of different time periods too, and so looking at both of those under one lens is political leaning for the fandom. That's really interesting. Do you ever talk about that on social media?
Yes, I have been trying to talk about that. Not getting that specific because I've more just articulated that in the last couple of days to myself.
Of course.
This chapter.
Yeah, things are always changing.
Yeah, so the Bold Type is actually like the new season is starting. So there's a lot of conversation about the new season and what's going to happen with the dominating queer relationship. So after like tonight, after I watch the season, I'm definitely looking to have some conversations on Twitter about that.
So how do you currently use social media?
Yeah, I use it kind of in two ways. Since I am studying fan studies, a lot of the conversations that fans are happening on Twitter and Tumblr. So I'm trying to use those platforms to talk to fans in, kind of a fandom space. And then academics, I'm also trying to connect with them in a different professional capacity of like, sharing conversations about, pedagogy or sources or whatever. So much
Absolutely.
more academic focused. And so I'm trying to, kind of bring those spaces together, I guess.
Yeah.
My own social media use.
Trying to create a larger conversation, it sounds like.
Yeah. And I think fan studies is doing that pretty well, actually. There's a lot of conversations that happen on Twitter right now, particularly about, the way in which fan studies itself is predominantly white scholars. And so like a lot of those conversations that we would be having like about fandom, we're also kind of having those internally as well.
Got it. So if you were trying to find the folklore community on Twitter, are there any hashtags you'd use, or is there an account or people that you would want to go to check out?
Yeah, I follow a few people. So like American Folklore Society is the society of the nation that most folklorists are going to be participating in.
Mm-hmm.
So you can tweet at their Twitter handle. And Folklore Thursday is a hashtag that was started not that long ago and has really been reaching across academic lines as well as people who just like folklore things like fairy tales or creepy stories, and they're using that as well.
Right. So you can engage with Twitter folklore at very different levels, whether you're just interested in it or whether you're studying it more seriously like yourself.
Definitely.
What's your favorite social media platform?
I talked a lot about Twitter, but I really like Instagram.
Oh, you really like Instagram. I thought you were going to say Tumblr. That's really interesting. So why do you like Instagram?
I like Instagram because it doesn't feel so much about like posting into the void. I still kind of struggle with the way in which Tumblr functions, I think. And so Instagram feels like much more like user friendly and straightforward. And so I like the way in which Instagram lets you like follow hashtags, and you can kind of expand your community in like cool and like productive ways.
How long have you been following hashtags for?
Not that long. It's probably been in the last like year that I was like, yeah, job market is happening very soon. I should like get on that.
Hashtags are a really great way to find your community. And it's really nice that just in the last year that you've been able to realize that you having those in your home feed is a good thing.
Yeah. I think like part of the reason why I go to conferences is because I find people's research like really inspiring. And so when people are talking about their research on social media, which I'm also trying to do, like I just find it really inspiring and to like be able to connect with people who are doing cool things.
Yeah, one of my favorite things is connecting with people that I've met at conferences on social media. And then I can see like what they're doing more, because I'm not always ready to collaborate with people, but I'm always ready to see like what they're up to and what their research is all about.
Yeah, because people are doing such cool things just in various spaces that you might not think to check out. But if they are, playing like hashtags or tweeting at people that you also follow, it's very cool to see like, oh, that's super interesting.
Yeah. Can I ask, do you ever use social media in the classroom?
I haven't used social media in the classroom in the sense of like having my students try to use social media in like a classroom assignment capacity. Definitely, I've had students focus on social media in many of my classrooms. Like I have taught composition, and actually the entire semester was focused on social media usage.
Wow.
And so we had them read a bunch of like things that engaged with like the detriments of using social media for teens right now, or the way in which, you know, people use social media to grieve together in communities. So yeah, social media has been an important part of like this subject of my teaching. And of course, you know, I'm incorporating fan studies in it as well.
Of course. So, what ways do you engage with your current audience, your followers, and how do you most interact with them?
I mostly try and use hashtags to try and contact the people that I like, the accounts that I know kind of follow those. So like things like, you know, PhD Life and academic Twitter are important ones across subjects. And so if I'm trying to interact with those kinds of groups, I'm using those kinds of hashtags. And then if I'm talking to a fandom source, I will often tweet at the official account, like the Bull Type or the Outlander series account that other people are just like following because they're fans. And so if you tweet at them and using the hashtags, then you're more likely to get in contact with them.
Right, because they're already following those hashtags and that account.
Yeah, exactly.
What about on Instagram? How do you like to interact with people on Instagram?
I have a lot of different capacities that I use Instagram, even more than my Twitter account, because I'm also the art editor for We Were So Small.
Awesome.
And so I actually follow a ton of artists and post my own art there. And so that account, even though it's still attached to all my other things, because We Were So Small is still in my work wheelhouse, I definitely focus, because it's such a visual medium, I definitely focus that more on like following artists, following like hashtag like small art, things like that, that I'm more interested in using that for.
Very interesting. So it sounds like you have your different platforms have kind of different uses, not just in the audiences that you're approaching, but in the content that you're posting as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think it's important to, because I think, well, obviously I think people are trying to be on all of them, but I think the way in which we're starting to use social media is like more pointed ways and reasons for using different platforms.
Yes, I agree. People are seeing that different platforms are good for different things and using them, I think, more how the platforms are intended to be used than how perhaps academics were using it in the past, which was largely just kind of sharing an article with a link.
Yeah, I think it's way more important and more useful for you to try and, you know, bring like this personal kind of connection instead of just like updating like,
yeah,
I did.
being personable is really important for social media. After all, we're not following, you know, random accounts. We're trying to follow other people.
Right. Which is like, right, kind of the primary function.
Yeah, exactly. Of being social.
Part. Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to new faculty, grad students, academics joining social media?
I think finding your people is important, like we've been talking about. Academics are having important conversations that typically take place in a conference setting or, you know, in faculty meetings about, you know, pedagogy and the future of the discipline. So being able to find those conversations and then weighing in on them, I think draws a lot of interaction to you. And I think, well, you know, I think it helps you as an academic and a thinker to be engaging with these conversations that are happening online.
Yes, I completely agree. Lastly, you are an assistant editor for Louisiana Folklore Miscellany, and you coordinate with authors, edit submissions, but you also run the social media. What is that like?
It's so cool. It's still very new. So it's only like a month or so old. And so we're trying to figure out some strategies for getting an audience, both of authors, but also people who are interested in Louisiana folklore to more engage with the work that the journal itself is doing. And so far we have a Twitter and a Facebook page, and we've been mostly using it to communicate important updates and deadlines. But I'm hoping to kind of implement a plan in the near future that works to expand our audience and like directs authors and audiences to the journal. And so, kind of hoping to bridge that gap through our social media presence.
That's great. And can I ask, like, if there are any challenges or something that you found surprising or interesting that is involved with that?
I find that it's very hard to get followers for a tiny journal out of Louisiana. Yeah, I'm like implementing a strategy and kind of things that you maybe didn't expect has been more challenging than I thought it would be. And so
Absolutely.
so I think it's taking a more thoughtful approach than what I have been using in my own personal account. So I think running an organization social media is very different.
Yeah, I think that there's like more stakes that are involved with following any kind of business or organization. Definitely people are looking for communication. And so when you're just starting out, especially since it's a new account, it's definitely takes time.
Yeah. Which I wasn't expecting that, even though in the back of your mind, you're like, okay, this can take a minute, but you're like, I'm not at 10 followers yet. How do I just
Well, I wish you all the luck. And I think that that's going to turn out really awesome, especially it's a new position. So plenty of time to see growth in the future and see more people interact with that community. Louisiana folklore is important and it should have a place for people to go to talk about it.
Absolutely. That is the Twitter handle. So check us out.
All right. If you are listening, be sure to follow Louisiana Folklore Miscellany on Twitter and Facebook, and I will include the link in the text.
Thank you.
I hope you liked this interview. Let me know in the comments below. Have you heard about the cool resources and guides you can get as part of my community? Join the Social Academic today and find more interviews with cool academics, grad students, and researchers on my blog. Be sure to follow me on social media at HigherEdPR, and you can find us on YouTube, SoundCloud, and Spotify.